Dublin Info Sec, Ireland's leading cybersecurity conference.
Hello and welcome to a special podcast looking at cybersecurity here with independent.ie. Now, we're here today to look at one of the biggest, Ireland's biggest cybersecurity conferences, Dublin Information Sec 2017. I'm Adrian Weckler, technology editor, and with me is Ailish O'Hora. Ailish, how's it going?
How are you?
I'm not too bad.
So, what's the story, Adrian? What's going to happen at this? Who's going to be telling us all about these issues, which we've seen a lot of in recent times?
We have quite a few interesting speakers, two or three in particular that I think are interesting. We'll be hearing from the Chief Information Officer of the HSE, Richard Corbridge. Now, he's an interesting story to tell because, as you'll know, the HSE was one of the organisations that suffered the worst from the WannaCry ransomware outbreak.
And on the international front, anyone to look out for?
Yeah, we have the US Assistant Secretary for Cyber Security, Jeanette Manfra, and she's going to be talking about all kinds of international threats. She might go into the area of state actors, because as you know, a lot of the cyber threats that are reported these days, including kind of ordinary ones that reach down to our own PCs, a lot of them come from abroad. Some of them come from what they call state actors, whether it's North Korea. A lot of accusations around quasi-backed organizations in Russia. That's very topical at the moment, obviously. And we have one other very interesting speaker as well. He's one of the most famous whistleblowers in recent history. His name is Bradley Birkenfeld. And he was a banker, and he essentially blew the whistle on some pretty serious activities going on. So he's going to talk about how that relates to security issues that big financial companies or semi-state companies may have. Yeah.
And of course, we've had some local attacks of late as well.
Yeah, I mean, Musgrave is one. So Musgrave, most people will have heard about this or read about this. Musgrave runs SuperValue, it runs Daybreak, and there's one other
Centra.
Is it Centra? It's Centra, you're right. And a few weeks back, it announced, or it disclosed rather, that it had been subject to a cyber attack. It's kind of interesting. These are the kind of issues that I think are going to be played out at this event. One of the other things we're going to touch on in this conference, we're not going to delve into too deeply because we actually have something else coming up on this, but it is still relevant in the IT security field, is this whole data privacy, GDPR segment. So for people who still aren't aware of it, although they should be by now, especially if you're running a business, the General Data Protection Regulation is an EU law that's coming in early next summer.
Year. Yeah.
And that essentially is going to completely tighten up and harden up the rules on what you're allowed to do with your customers' personal data. But it also means in the security field, if you have a data breach or if you're hacked or if something happens to your business, it means that you now have a legal obligation to, first of all, to inform the Data Protection Commissioner, Alan Dixon's office. You've an obligation to inform them. And there's a lot of other obligations and also fines that will now come in, up to €20 million or 4% of your annual turnover. So
companies' hands could be forced in a sense.
Yeah, they could be forced.
Yeah.
So we're going to take something of a look at that as well in the context of an IT security setting. What we're really trying to do here is just to keep this practical for people who come to this conference. We wanted people to go away with a sense of what they can actually do themselves in their own businesses, rather than too much kind of academic, by way of academic exercise.
So it's practical.
Yeah, very practical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Adrian, I know people can buy tickets for this event on independent.ie, but where is it on and when?
Yeah, it's on the 1st of November, Wednesday the 1st of November. It's on in the RDS. Both myself and my colleague Derval MacDonald will be there emceeing large parts of it, and we're expecting several hundred people there. So it'll be a pretty good chance to network with other people from the industry, as well as meet some of the speakers.
Dublin Infosec, Ireland's leading cybersecurity conference.